Hmm, so you graduated from college and got a job, but quit after just 6 months? The interviewer smirked as he said this. Kids these days, they quit their jobs so easily. They don't like the work, they don't like their boss, the job's too tough, or the pay's too low. Back in my day, people who complained like that wouldn't even get hired. I think kids today are really spoiled. I went home and prayed in front of my mom and dad's altar. Today's interview didn't go well either. But don't worry. I'll definitely land a good job soon, I promise. I check job listings on my phone. This place. I can't believe they're hiring. Well, it can't hurt to try. And then, the day of the interview, I put on my dad's suit and wore the watch he left me. That watch. I had a feeling it might be. Excuse me? My name is Sean. I'm 22 years old. I'm desperately searching for a job right now. After graduating college, I joined a company. But I didn't stay there long. The company was fairly big, but the overtime was brutal, and I was always busy. But that's not why I quit. Even though it was tough, the job was rewarding. However, I couldn't get along with my boss, and it became unbearable to go to work. He was notorious in the company for being a new grad crusher, and one by one, my fellow new hires started quitting. I did my best to stick it out, but after 6 months, I'd reached my limit. I complained to the management team several times, but since he'd been with the company for years, they said they couldn't remove him. Nothing changed. So I left the company. Now, I'm fighting to find a new job. But no company wants to hire someone who quit after just 6 months. I keep getting asked the same thing in interviews. Why did you quit after 6 months? There's no way I can say I was harassed by my boss. Bad-mouthing your previous employer during an interview is a huge no-no. So I usually gave vague answers like we weren't a good fit or I wanted to improve my skills. But no one was convinced by those answers. I'm just someone who quit after 6 months, a person with no perseverance. The only thing people will think of me is that I'm just like that. I've had 4 interviews so far, but none have led to a job offer. If this keeps up, I'm in serious trouble. I don't have any family to lean on. My mother passed away from illness when I was young, and my father died last year, also from illness. So, I don't have a home to go back to. The old house I grew up in was just a cheap apartment, and now, someone else probably lives there. I have nowhere to go back to. There's no one I can rely on either. That's why I need to find a new job as soon as possible. With that in mind, I worked a part-time job every day while searching for new openings. One day, a job listing caught my eye. It was from the big company I had admired for years. This company, they're actually hiring? This company rarely posted job openings. Back when I was in college, I checked constantly to see if they had any listings. I even asked my professors and friends to keep an eye out, but unfortunately, they never had any positions open. And now, there it was, a job opening from the very company I had dreamed of. Only 3 applicants would be accepted. Should I apply, even though it's probably a long shot? No. I'll just fail again. A company this big wouldn't want someone like me, who quit after 6 months. I chuckled bitterly to myself, closed the job posting, and went to sleep. But all I could think about was that job at the big company. I knew there was no way I'd get in. But it was the company I had always dreamed of. Maybe I should just take a chance, even if it's a long shot. That thought kept swirling around in my head. No, I need to focus on what's right in front of me. I have an interview with XYZ company today. I need to do my best to get an offer. I was at another company's interview. Wearing the same suit I had used during job hunting in college, I nervously walked into the building. I followed the receptionist and stepped into the meeting room. Let's get started right away. Please state your name and your highest level of education. Yes. My name is Sean, and I graduated from XYZ College. Like usual, I introduced myself, listed my education, and gave my self-introduction. So you graduated from XYZ College and joined ABC Corporation, but you quit after 6 months? The interviewer smirked as he said this. But I was used to this reaction by now. It was exactly what I expected. I briefly explained the reason I quit and highlighted my strengths. That's why I believe I can leverage my strengths in a sales position. I'm also good at calculations, so yes, that's enough. Excuse me? Kids these days quit their jobs so quickly. We want someone who will stay with the company for the long term. But young people today leave after just a short time. They don't like the work, don't like their boss, think the job's too hard, or the pay's too low. Back in my day, people who said things like that wouldn't even get hired. We worked for the company, and unpaid overtime was normal. Kids today are really lucky, but even so, new grads keep quitting. The interviewer started talking about his own struggles. It wasn't the first time I had encountered someone like this at an interview. My generation had it tough. Things are so much better now. While indirectly implying, you're going to quit right away too, aren't you? Sure, quitting my last job was my responsibility. But I wished they could see beyond that one aspect. No matter how much I talked about my strengths or presented myself positively, every interviewer would inevitably sigh when they heard the reason I left my last job. Even though I knew this was how it would go, it was still disheartening. And you might want to pay a bit more attention to your appearance. Does something seem off? It's not bad, but how do I put it? You've got a fresh look, but there's something lacking in modesty. I see. I don't remember much of what was asked during the rest of the interview. But I do remember feeling incredibly frustrated and sad. I returned home and prayed at my mom and dad's altar. Today's interview didn't go well either. But don't worry, I'll be fine. I'll definitely land a great job. As usual, I looked for job listings on my phone. There were many job postings online, with tons of companies hiring. And the one that caught my eye was the same big company I had seen the other day. If I could work at such a large company, the sense of fulfillment would be incredible. There's a reason I've always admired this company. It's because my dad used to praise it all the time. This company is amazing. It started out small, but it grew so fast. You hear its name everywhere now, right? I worked there once, and it was such a great place. The employees were happy and relaxed. Dad, you've told me that story at least 10 times already. If it was so great, why'd you leave? The company's huge, and the pay was good, right? Yeah, well, I guess I found something even more important than the company. What are you talking about? I don't get it. But yeah, it does seem like a great company, with good benefits and all. Oh, really? Then you should apply. If you get in, I'd be so proud of you. Come on, don't be ridiculous. I'll get rejected in the paperwork stage. But yeah, working there would be pretty nice. Working where you want is the most important thing. If you ever need anything, just tell me. I'll always be on your side. That's kind of creepy, Dad. Creepy? How's that creepy? If you say things like that, here comes Dad's hug attack. Whoa! Stop it. That's gross. Ha ha ha. Thinking back to those days, I realized how happy I was back then. After it was just the two of us, there were tough times, but I never felt lonely. Dad was always joking around like that, keeping the house filled with laughter. But now, Dad's gone. I have to do this on my own. Looking at the altar, I felt like Dad and Mom were smiling at me gently. Maybe I'll go grab some ice cream from the convenience store. I walked to the nearby store, bought some ice cream, and headed back home. As I looked up at the sky, I saw a shooting star streak across. Whoa! A shooting star. Maybe something good's coming my way. Quietly, I glanced down at my phone. Before I knew it, I had applied to the dream company. An email arrived saying, "We'll send the results of your application within 3 business days." It's a long shot, but why not? 3 days later, I got the results of the application. Nervously, I opened the email. It said, "We'd like to invite you to the next stage of the process." How does the following date work for an interview? What? No way. I actually made it to the interview. I quickly replied to the email. The interview date was set. The night before, I was ironing my dress shirt. I remembered the last time someone criticized my suit. At the previous interview, they asked if I had a better suit. Not like I have a lot of suits. I slowly opened my closet and started checking my clothes one by one. Suits are expensive. I couldn't afford to have many. Then, one suit caught my eye. It was the suit my dad used to wear. "Why don't you wear this suit? You and I are about the same size, so it should fit. But this is pretty old, isn't it? Aren't you supposed to wear your own suit for job interviews? Who cares? It'll be like I'm wrapping you up and protecting you, right?" Ha ha ha. Stop it, Dad. After hearing that, I don't want to wear that suit anymore. I'll just buy a new one for myself. Oh, really? That conversation felt like it happened just yesterday. But my hand naturally reached for that suit. Dad said it would be like he's wrapping me up and protecting me, right? Oh. And there's that watch too. It's a bit old-fashioned, but I might as well wear it. I pulled out the watch that I had carefully kept. This suit and watch were keepsakes from my dad. I never imagined there would come a day when I'd wear this suit to a job interview. I hung the suit on the hanger, placed the watch on my desk, and went to bed. And the next day, I slipped on my dad's suit, strapped on his watch, and left the house. My heart was pounding, but I kept rehearsing the interview in my head. I practiced over and over to be ready for any question that came my way. When I arrived at the interview venue, there were about 10 other people there. Everyone looked more experienced than me, and I felt a bit intimidated. Most of them seemed older, more confident, and I couldn't help but feel like I didn't stand a chance. They've probably all had long careers and come here well prepared. Just then, a man walked up to me. "Hey, how old are you?" "Ha? Me? I'm 22. I'm 25. Did you start working right after high school or something?" "No, I graduated from college and then quit the company I joined pretty quickly." The guy who started talking to me was also waiting for his interview. He smiled warmly and kept chatting with me. "Oh, I see. So you left pretty soon after starting, huh?" "Yeah, that's pretty much how it went. Ah, don't worry. I'm not blaming you or anything. Something bad must have happened, right? Well, actually, my boss was pretty terrible. Everyone I started with ended up quitting too. I know it's my fault for leaving after just 6 months, but because of that, I'm having trouble finding another job. Yeah, I get it. You can't really say, my boss was the problem in an interview, right? It's tough to figure out what to say. It really helps to hear that. I don't get to talk about this stuff with many people. I see. Well, think of me as your big brother, and feel free to talk about anything. With a slightly playful expression, that person said it. The tension eased, and before I knew it, a smile naturally appeared on my face. My name's Chris, by the way. We're rivals today, but nice to meet you. What's your name? I'm Sean. Good to meet you, Sean. But it's a bit complicated, isn't it? We're competing for the same spot now. Still, I don't like the idea of being all tense and awkward. I tried talking to some of the others, but they didn't seem too interested. Really? Well, I'm glad you spoke to me. It definitely helps ease my nerves. It's better to talk to someone than walk into the interview feeling anxious. Ah, I like you. You've got the right mindset. After the interview, let's grab a bite to eat, win or lose. No hard feelings either way. Yeah, sounds good. Chris had a friendly, approachable vibe, and it seemed like he was great at building connections with people. Even from our brief conversation, I could tell he was a good guy. He'd definitely be well suited for a sales job. As we chatted, I noticed some of the other candidates whispering and watching us. It's pointless to pretend we're getting along. I could hear a voice saying that. Well, I'm going to practice a bit more for the interview. Let's both give it our best shot. Yeah, let's do our best, Chris. Before I knew it, it was time for the interview. My name is Robert, and I'll be conducting today's interview. We'll be interviewing in the next room. While there will be other interviewers present, I'll be the main one asking the questions. I'll call 2 names at a time, so when you're called, please follow me into the room. With that, he called the first 2 names. I anxiously wait for my turn, wondering when my name will be called. There are about 10 people. Only 3 will pass. It's not an impossible hurdle, but looking around at the capable people, I start to feel a bit discouraged. That's when I catch a glimpse of my dad's watch. That's right. Just give it your all. I've made it this far, there's no need to hold back. I'm going to say what I need to say and do what I came here to do. Dad's watching over me. Mom is probably cheering me on too. I'll do my best. I gently stroke the watch as I mutter to myself. And then, another group is called. After that, the next group is called, and finally, it's my turn. Sean and Chris. Please come to this room next. Yes. I didn't expect us to be paired up. But I'm not going to hold back just because we're rivals. Yes. Let's do our best. There's something a bit awkward about doing an interview with someone I know. But there's no time to dwell on that. This is a rare opportunity. I've got to give it my all. The 2 of us walk into the room and sit down. Now then, please introduce yourselves, including your education and a self-promotion. Yes. Chris confidently delivers his self-promotion. As expected, he's a great speaker. With a friendly smile, he emphasizes his strengths. Listening to him, I try to boost my own confidence. I've got to follow Chris's lead. If I speak without confidence after such a strong introduction, I'll completely fade into the background. I deliver my self-promotion with full confidence. I feel like Chris, sitting next to me, is even smiling with a sense of satisfaction. Once my self-promotion is done, I notice something. One of the interviewers is staring at me intently. Even when I'm not talking, he's quietly watching me. Is this suit not fitting me right? I keep these thoughts to myself as the interview continues. There were some unexpected questions, but I managed to answer them all without any problems. Chris did the same. Listening to Chris's responses made me even more determined not to lose to him. Because of that, I think this was the best interview I've ever done. As we near the end of the interview, the man who had been quietly observing me finally speaks. May I ask a question as well? Matthew? Of course, I don't mind. It seemed rare for the man called Matthew to speak, as the interviewer who had been asking questions so far showed a look of confusion. I tense up, wondering what kind of question is coming. I apologize for asking something unrelated, but where did you get that suit and watch? Did you buy them at a second-hand store? Ha! The sudden question leaves my mind completely blank. Is he implying they look old and worn out? Thinking he's questioning why I'm wearing something so old, I quickly respond. No. I didn't buy them at a second-hand store. They're things my late father left for me. That's why I'm wearing them today as a sort of good luck charm. Is there something wrong with that? So your father has passed away? Yes, he passed away last year due to illness. I remembered how he told me when he was alive that I should wear this suit to interviews. So I decided to wear it today. He said if I wore this suit, he would be watching over me. I see. So why do you want to work for this company? There are plenty of similar companies out there. Why did you choose ours? Please tell me. Yes, it's true there are many sales positions available. But I've admired your company for a long time. And that's because of my late father's influence. When he was alive, he would praise your company over and over again. He would always tell me how your company grew from something small into what it is today, explaining its history again and again, so much so that I got tired of hearing it. So when I saw the job posting, I knew I had to apply. I see. Did you love your father? Yes. I'm proud of him. As I said that, the interviewer covered his eyes with his hand. Then he let out a deep sigh. Is something wrong, Matthew? I had a feeling about that watch. Ha! Actually, I also have a son I had a falling out with, and we haven't spoken since. I've always hoped he's doing well somewhere. So, could I have a moment of your time after this? Sean King? Yes, of course. At that moment, the name of the company's president came to mind. Matthew King. Could this interviewer actually be Mr. King? There were no public photos of him. So, I hadn't realized it was him until I heard his name. And we share the same last name. King isn't all that common, but I didn't think much of it until now. After the final question, our interview wrapped up without any issues. To my surprise, I noticed Chris beside me sniffling, trying to hold back tears as he answered the last question. Hey! Why are you crying? You surprised me when you started tearing up during the interview. Your dad, he was a great guy, huh? I didn't realize that suit and watch had such a special meaning. I'm weak when it comes to stories like that. Chris's eyes were red, and he was still sniffling. Seeing him like that, I couldn't help but laugh. I've never seen anyone cry during an interview. Ha ha. Well, you're the one who started telling that touching story. Everything was going smoothly until then, but after hearing your story, I couldn't think straight. It just shows you're a good person. Oh, sorry, I slipped into casual speech. It's fine, don't worry. Not long after that, all the interviews were finished, and we were dismissed. I was the only one called back by Matthew, while Chris waited for me at a cafe nearby. Left alone in the room with him, Matthew gave me a serious look. Was your father Ryan King? Yes, that's right. I'm sorry for asking that odd question during the interview. But when I saw that suit and watch, I couldn't help myself. So, Ryan is gone now? Yes, he passed away last year due to illness. And what about your mother? Does she live with you? My mother passed away when I was young, also due to illness. I see. Let me tell you a bit about your father. But first, did your father ever mention his parents, your grandparents? He told me they passed away when I was little. I see. You might find this hard to believe, but I'm your grandfather. Ryan and I worked together for a while. It was here, at this company. This company has been passed down from my father, and I planned to hand it over to Ryan, but then he brought a woman to me, saying he wanted to marry her. Your mother. Being told he was my grandfather didn't surprise me much. I had a feeling it was possible, even during the interview. Plus, he resembled my father in a way, which made it easier to believe. Why didn't you approve? I had plans for his future. I wanted him to marry someone else, a match I had arranged. It wasn't something he asked for, it was all my doing. I thought it would be best for him. But when he brought home this unknown woman and said, I want to marry her, I just couldn't accept it. I also thought it would damage my reputation. Of course, it was my fault for never asking Ryan how he felt. But at the time, I truly believed what I was doing was for his happiness. Matthew squinted his eyes as he talked about the old days. He had a somewhat lonely expression on his face. The woman he wanted to marry was physically weak, and I heard she was pregnant. I was furious that he had gotten someone else pregnant when I had already found him a suitable partner. In my anger, I kicked him out of the house. We never spoke again after that. At first, I thought we'd still see each other at work, but shortly after I kicked him out, Ryan quit the company. Neither of us ever reached out to the other again. I just assumed he was living well somewhere. I see. So you really are I'm your grandfather. Although to call myself that feels undeserving, since I've never done anything for you. I had no idea my father lived through all of that. But does that mean my father betrayed the woman he was supposed to marry? At the time, I thought so too. But apparently, he had been honest with her from the start. He told her he wasn't planning to marry her and that he was in love with someone else. It seems she didn't take it too seriously and wasn't overly concerned. I see. I was overwhelmed by everything I had just learned, struggling to process it all. My grandfather is alive? My dad could have become the president of this company? He ran away with my mom? My father was always smiling, and I never knew what he was thinking. I never imagined he was hiding such a secret. And about this suit and watch. That suit was something Ryan bought with his first paycheck. We went shopping together, and he tried on all sorts of suits, rejecting each one until he finally chose that one. It took over 3 days to decide. Ryan was so stubborn. And that watch? I gave it to him as a gift when he got his first job. I wanted him to have something nice for his new career. So I gave him a watch with his name engraved on it. There's no mistaking it, that suit and watch were very special to him. Matthew spoke with tears welling up in his eyes. I could tell he deeply regretted the fight that had led to my dad being kicked out of the house. I never realized my father was as stubborn as my grandfather described. If only one of them had reached out first, they could have reconciled so easily. If you don't mind, would you like to come by and offer incense sometime? I think my parents would be happy. Is that really okay? After being such a bad father and grandfather, what would Ryan have thought of me? I don't know exactly how my father felt, but whenever he talked about this company, he seemed genuinely happy. He would proudly tell stories about it, saying that one day, if I ever got a job here, he'd brag to everyone about it. I believe both the company and you were important to him. I see. Matthew wiped his eyes and his shoulders shook slightly. Thank you for sharing that with me today. Please allow me to pay my respects to your parents soon. Of course. I left the room and headed to the cafe where Chris was waiting for me. So much had happened today. The interview at the company I admired. My father's hidden past. And discovering my grandfather was still alive. You're late. What were you talking about in there? Well, actually, when I told Chris the story, he started bawling even more than he did during the interview. Seeing his tear-streaked face, I couldn't help but laugh. Before I knew it, a tear slipped from my own eye as well. And a few days later, I received a call offering me the job at my dream company. I was so happy, it didn't even feel real. Then, a few days after that, my grandfather came to visit my house. The two of us offered incense and prayed together. Did they look happy? Your parents? Yes. They were always joking around, and I think we were a family filled with smiles. I see. And, actually, there's something I wanted to give you. I handed him a letter. After the interview, I was going through my father's belongings. I hadn't noticed it before, but I found these letters. One was addressed to me. And the other. I think it's for you. I haven't read them yet. While sorting through his things, I had found two letters. One was addressed to me, Sean. The other was addressed to his father. Matthew's eyes widened as he carefully took the letter. Do you mind if I read it now? No, I don't. Together, we began to read the letters. I didn't have the courage to read the letter alone. So, when Matthew came to visit, I thought it would be best to read it together. Here's what was written in my letter. Actually, you have a grandfather. Sorry for lying and saying he passed away. And here's something even more surprising. He's the president of that big company you admire. I had a big fight with my dad and stormed out of the house. I haven't contacted him since then, but if you ever find yourself in trouble, reach out to him. I'm sure he'll help you. If you're reading this letter, it probably means my illness wasn't cured. Well, it can't be helped. I'll be meeting your mom in the afterlife. But I'm worried about you. You're responsible and have a strong sense of justice. But that might make you spin your wheels sometimes. If you ever find yourself in a tough spot, rely on your grandpa. I'm sure he'll help you. If he doesn't, sorry. But I think it'll be okay. He's a serious and kind man, and I doubt he could ignore you if you needed help. If it looks like he might, just cry in front of him. He's weak to tears, and I bet he'll give in right away. Ha ha. I love you, my one and only son. Sean. Love you? Man, you really had to say something that cringy at the end. As I finished reading the letter, tears started falling from my eyes. When I looked over, I saw that Matthew was crying as well. What did your letter say? It said he forgives me. He also wrote that he should have apologized sooner. But in exchange for his forgiveness, he asked me to take care of you. His son, Sean. He even threatened that if I didn't, he wouldn't forgive me in the afterlife and would make me pay when we meet again. With a warning like that, I'll have to make sure I look after you properly. That sounds just like him. Yeah, that's definitely him. We talked a lot about my dad. About what he was like before I was born. And about what he was like after I came into the world. I heard stories about my dad's childhood that I'd never known. And I shared stories from his life as a father that Matthew hadn't heard. We had such a great time talking, and before we knew it, the hours had flown by. It's already this late? Looks like I stayed too long. I'm sorry. Would it be alright if I came by again to offer incense? Of course. You're welcome anytime. Matthew stood up, gathered his things, and made his way to the door. Before leaving, he turned back and bowed deeply. It seems you'll be joining our company soon. I'm counting on you. But let me be clear, your hiring had nothing to do with you being my grandson. I hired you because I believe in Sean, the man. I'll be cheering for you from the sidelines. Thank you. I'll do my best. Could it be that I was hired just because I'm his grandson? I found myself thinking that way. But he made it clear that wasn't the case. He recognized me as an individual. That made me so happy. So, after joining the company, I threw myself into the work with everything I had. There was just one surprise. Hey! So you passed too, huh? Looking forward to working with you as a fellow new hire. Chris. You made it too? I'm looking forward to it. I gained a slightly tear-prone, but great, friend. It turned out that Chris had passed the interview as well, and we ended up working together. The job was tough, and there was a lot to learn, but I'm determined to keep giving my all at this company. Since that day, I'd been meeting with my grandfather occasionally. Calling him Grandpa still feels a little awkward, but maybe one day I'll get used to it. Whenever we meet, we always talk about my dad and mom. As if trying to make up for all the time that was lost, Matthew listens eagerly to my stories. I used to think I was all alone after my parents passed away, but now I realize that's not the case. I'm going to cherish both my grandfather and the company he's protected for so long.